My name is Duddy, settle builds and stuff. Today I've got something a little bit different. There's still like a couple of builds in there, but we're going to be featuring and looking at the Broodweaver subclass, the Pure Strand subclass versus the Prismatic Warlock. We're going to be featuring like a poison suspend build with necrotic grips and Mataiodoxia. We'll obviously be pairing both of these up together, again weighing up the pros and the cons of both things. I think Bungie have got like a big headache with Prismatic coming into the game, because I think some of the old subclasses in the game like Arc, Strand, Stasis, etc., they're sort of getting a little bit left behind in my opinion. But the focus of the video, just to start off with, we're going to be looking at the Pure Strand subclass, non-Prismatic. We're going to be featuring a suspend poison build with some suspension going on. Obviously we're going to be featuring Necrochasm, and this build in particular still feels pretty good, although it is lacking on some certain things when you compare it to a Prismatic subclass, which we will go at. Just being able to spread poison infinitely with your necrotic grips, and we're going to add, like I said, a bit of suspension in there as well, with some of the Strand aspects like Manspun Invocation and things like that. So we're going to break it all down, compare them and see what you think. Let me know how I do with this video, because it's the first time I've ever tried something like that. So stay with me, we'll get into it. So both type of setups will be featuring the Necrochasm. It got the Cursebringer perk on there. Precision final blows with this weapon, trigger a curse for all explosion, increase reload speed for a short time. Final blows with curse for all explosions, refill the magazine. We've also got desperation on there, reloading after a precision final blow or a final blow of curse for all. It increases the rate of fire and improves stability on aim. It's also got the catalyst on there, one for thrall, hitting 3 separate targets, increases damage, range, handling and aim assist for a moderate duration. Obviously this weapon is a weapon of sorrow, so it does spread poison. I've got a few clips just to sort of show you how the Necrochasm works. If you didn't know, I'm sure we already know, but you'll see there, just the rate of fire increase is just absolutely crazy once you get a kill. And that curse for all explosion, even in endgame activity, is really good. It's really noticeable, and you'll see that poison spreading like so. Now the obvious pairing with this one is the necrotic grip, because damaging target with a melee poisons them, dealing increased damage over time. Defeating a poison target spreads the condition. This works well with many weapon of sorrow weapons, things like Thorn, Necrochasm, things like that. Osteostriga, Touch of Malice also works with this as well. But just for now, we're going to be featuring the Necrochasm, just being able to spread that poison everywhere. Now, one of the key things on a Strand or Prismatic subclass is the Arcane Needle. This fires a needle, like a melee that unravels targets. This also spreads along with the poison, so it's just a match made in heaven in my opinion, having the Arcane Needle unraveling things left, right and centre all across the map, plus your poison. It's just an absolutely superb melee for this particular build. Because the unraveling rounds, as you'll see in these clips, they're bouncing around everywhere across the screen and the poison at the same time, creating tangles everywhere. So it's a really good melee again. And obviously again, that's just like extra damage with your necrotic grips. You can kill an enemy that's poisoned via your necrotic grips, and that will also spread the condition of the necrotic grips. And again, even at endgame stuff, endgame level, it is really good. Because we're on a Strand subclass, Manspun Invocation is one of the aspects that works particularly nice for this one, where you can consume your Shackle Grenade in particular. This will activate Weaver's Trance. Final blows with Weaver's Trance activate a suspending detonation. We've also got the Wanderer, where you can pick your tangles up, throw them, and that will also suspend. And you can also shoot the tangle, which will also suspend. So 2 fully focused suspension aspects, if you like, on the Strand subclass. And this is where I sort of wanted to sort of like weigh up the pros and cons with a Prismatic subclass, which we'll go into again as we go. But just having the suspension on top of everything else that you've seen, the poison, the unraveling rounds, it just feels like a really nice match. And I know this type of build's been covered a real lot like over the last couple of years since Strand come out. It is such a good build still to this day, but there is some like indifferences between the Prismatic subclass and the Strand subclass now, because we've got certain exotics in the game. But just for now, you can see there, just infinite suspension pretty much, infinite poison, infinite unraveling rounds, and it's really good for endgame activities. I'm just going to go over some of the Strand fragments. I'm going to be comparing these to some of the Prismatic ones, but Thread of Continuity, Suspend, Unravel and Sever effects applied to targets have an increased duration. Of course, if you remember a few seasons back, Suspend got a big nerf, On top of that, we've got a thread of isolation, landed rapid precision hits, emits a severing burst from the target. We've also got this on the Prismatic subclass, it's just called something else. On top of that, we're running thread of wisdom, defeating suspended targets creates an orb of power. These are just my choices, I like to do that for my weapon surges for my necrochasm. And then on top of that, we've got thread of generation, dealing damage generates a grenade energy. Now this is another one that actually got a nerf a few seasons back. So a couple of fragments there, compared to prismatic ones, which we'll go into as we go. A lot of these have been nerfed over the last couple of seasons, and I don't think they actually weigh up very good compared to prismatic ones. But just for now, we'll still focus on the Strand one. And you can see in these clips, once you've got sort of everything going, you've got your maximum time suspension, you've got your Wanderer popping off there as well from the Curse for All explosion, you've got infinite suspension, infinite poison, infinite unraveling rounds, and you can create plenty of orbs with this particular setup as well if you keep suspending everything. And like I said, even in like endgame stuff, this build still holds up good in my opinion. And I don't want this video to come across as I want something nerfing, but when you switch over to one of the best exotics in the game at the moment on the wall at the Mataiodoxia, where this makes your targets damaged by arcane needle, emit a suspending detonation when defeated, landing multiple arcane needles on the same target immediately triggers a larger explosion. And when you defeat suspended targets, you're going to get more melee energy back, and it's also got anti-barrier built into that as well. Your arcane needles actually break anti-barrier shields. And if you compare it to the two Strand aspects that we talked about, Mansman and the Wanderer, like, you've pretty much got that with this, but better in my opinion. You literally can break an anti-barrier shield with one melee. You can suspend things infinitely just with your arcane needles if you build into good strength. And I noticed the difference like straight away. Like with Prismatic, you look on that bottom left, all the stuff that I've got going on. I've got Radiant, Devour going on. You've got Infinite Suspension with a Mataiodoxia. You've got two supers basically. Of course you can run the exact same build with Necrotic Grip on a Prismatic, which we've seen quite a few of them, or even exotic class items. But for me, like the Mataiodoxia pretty much covers the Strand subclass that I showed you at the beginning. You've got Infinite Suspension, you still get your poison going, but on top of that, we're going to have all sorts of different buffs going on your screen. And that's what happens when we choose the Prismatic Warlock now, for example. Like, so many choices. We've got Feed the Void. Like, this is just unbeatable. You're going to have healing on top of all the suspension from the Mataiodoxia. New aspects like Helion, where you're going to be able to infinitely scorch things. And just having the choice of aspects, a choice of supers like Song of Flame, for example. You can run Song of Flame, which, as we know, you're unkillable. A choice of all different type of supers. The other thing as well, obviously, we've got a choice of grenades now. You've got Vortex, Threadling, Cold Snap Grenade, and these are like a big sort of pull towards Prismatic versus a Strand subclass. And obviously, you want to be running Arcane Needle, but you can actually run any melee as well, obviously. Now, some of the fragments as well, like compared to the other fragments, like Facet of Grace, defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus transcendent energy, but defeated targets with your super grants you and your nearby allies bonus transcendent energy. And you can see in this clip here, killing things with your super is just an infinite loop to getting your Prismatic super going. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Such a good fragment, really strong. You've also got things like Facet of Dawn. This is one of the best fragments in the game because it's going to make all of your powered melee hits, make you radiant. We don't have that on the Strand subclass or even Stasis ones. It's crazy. Facet of Protection, 25% reduction when you're surrounded. I don't think we have that on Strand. You've got it on Arc, but you don't have it on Strand. So just more benefits to running a Prismatic subclass now. And then finally, Facet of Dominance. Like, I've never understood this one at all because this makes your grenades weaken. Your Void grenades weaken and your Arc grenades jolt. Now, we've got something similar on a Void subclass called Echo of Undermining, where it makes your Void grenades weaken. That's a -20 discipline, where this one's only a -10 discipline. So, you'll riddle me that one, tell me if that makes sense. How your grenades can weaken and make your Arc grenades jolt versus just weakening on a Void subclass. One of them costs -10, one of them costs -20. I don't understand that one. But anyway, back to the build, or the little conversation. So once you've got everything going on with your Prismatic subclass, you've got your suspension, your poison with a Mataiodoxia, infinite radiance with Faceted of Dawn, literally anywhere. You've got 2 supers pretty much, and once you pop that Prismatic super, you literally got infinite melee spam, so you can suspend everything left, right and centre. Well, also, without even really talking about it too much, on Prismatic we've obviously got exotic class items to consider as well. So I sort of really, this is like my sort of conclusion with it, and I'm also really interested to hear what you guys think, how they could sort of like bring Strand. It's not just Strand, there's quite a few sort of builds that are getting left behind, like Arc and Stasis and things like that. But for me, I just want to sort of really sort of like listen to you guys, see what you think. In my opinion, I personally think the way forward would be for Bungie to actually just start migrating things over to Prismatic. All the aspects from Strand, all the aspects from Stasis, like everything, even like the Whirling Maelstrom over to Prismatic. Just do it over time, just do it every couple of updates or something like that. Just add an aspect in, a couple of other fragments, create some new exotics, and just literally have everything over on Prismatic. Because I think the other way of doing it would be an absolute nightmare to try and balance all the other subclasses up to the level of Prismatic. It just makes more sense for me just to get everything on Prismatic. I hope that's the way to go forward. But again, I'm always interested to hear what you guys think. This is just my opinion. You may disagree or agree. Let me know what you think. I hope you found this video somewhat helpful. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.